Oh, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and others who shall remain nameless. You know who you are. Love yous all. Yeah. Oh, well. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, well. And a very good morning it is. Oh, wow, yeah. Uh, so I want to talk. I don't want to, but I feel compelled to talk about a phenomenon. Friendly fascism. Yeah, friendly fascism. And yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing. Wow. So, what exactly is friendly fascism? Well, friendly fascism is fascism wearing its absolute prettiest possible face. Now, what a lot of people fail to understand is that fascism is an aesthetic. It's an aesthetic, it's a look, it's an image. And it's an image that runs both very deeply and very superficially. It's very shallow, very superficial, but it presents itself as having depth. And the key elements are, one, there's a populist leader who presents himself as the strong man who will fix everybody's problems. Two, there is an outgroup that is blamed for everybody's problems. Better if there are several outgroups. Three, it promises a return to traditional values. And yeah, the less said about that, the better, honestly. But I will get back to it, unfortunately. And finally, it promotes the idea that you have to prove that you are a real man constantly. Because in fascism, there's the constant insinuation that all our problems are because the other group has weakened us, corrupted us, and turned us into not real men. Yeah. Not real men. And so fascists will try to sell us a certain aesthetic. The accoutrements of being strong. Yeah. Or sometimes they'll just try to sell us a gym membership that we can't afford. But, yeah. America's unhealthy obsession with the AR-15 is fed by fascism. It is the worship of a gun that supposedly makes them strong. Pardon me. Of course it doesn't, but what do they know? Yeah. They're the suckers. They are the suckers. And those suckers are fed more than just, you need an AR-15 to be a real man. They're fed a lot more. They're fed the disdain for women. That somehow weakness is tied to being effeminate and associating with women. Fascism is, at the same time, very, very homoerotic and very homophobic. You have a bunch of men who take off their clothes and oil each other down and do exercises together to show how strong and manly they are. But they're not gay. They're not gay. No. Gays are weak and feminine. They're like women. In fact, a man who likes women is considered gay by these people, which, yeah. I didn't know I was gay. Apparently, according to fascism, I'm gay because I like women. I like women. So that means that I'm not a real man, according to fascism. Real men don't need girlfriends or wives. They just need women to be the breeding stock of their armies, the future armies that they're going to need for the next stage of fascism, which is when you run out of people locally to blame for your problems, so I have to look a little further out. And of course, there's an unhealthy reverence for Sparta. There's always a very unhealthy reverence for Sparta. Anywho, yeah. There's also the protection of capital, the protection of the property of the very rich, because ultimately fascism is an attempt to subvert socialism in order to bring it back in line with the needs of capitalism. So yeah, when the people start to realize that the capitalists are their problem, not the Jews, not the gays, not the feminists, but the capitalists, fascism rolls out and says, oh no, it really is the Jews, the gays, the feminists, yeah. Or in this case, it's not the Jews anymore, it's the Arabs, which includes everybody who's not an Arab, but who may or may not come from a culture where men wear turbans of some sort. Whether they are an Arab or not, they're collectively blamed for everything. Because It's no longer cool to blame Jews. It's no longer cool to blame Jews. But fascism was never about blaming Jews per se. Jews were just a convenient and, at that time, weak outgroup that could be blamed. Today, of course, they are a strong in-group, and so cannot be blamed for the problems of the world, and also cannot be blamed for anything that they have done, either as individuals or collectively. Unfortunately, many Jews have co-opted fascism, and yeah, that's not going to come back to bite them on the ass. No way, that's never going to happen, right? Yeah. I do feel sorry for all the good Jews out there who are the majority, but who are still, unfortunately, going to be held responsible for what a very small handful of very bad Jews are doing. Because yes, fascism will return to blaming Jews when they get around to it. I mean, they're already talking about how George Soros, oh. Yeah. Uh, yeah. And of course, the worst part is when you see fascists who literally take a page out of history and call it a playbook. People like Donald J. Grump. I have all the trash. I have more trash than anybody. I have all the trash. Yeah. I'm going to mock him severely. Yes. Yeah. The man is a fascist. He's a populist pretending to be a man of the people. He's blaming elites and liberals, as well as socialists, trade unionists, women, feminists, gay people, and ethnocultural outgroups. Yeah. Can you find anything in there that isn't screaming fascism? Anything in there at all? I'd really like it if you could explain to me how this man is not a fascist. Just please explain. Please. Pretty please. Pretty please. Oh, yeah. And here in Canada, we have, of course, Pierre Poilievre, who's blaming liberals, blaming the natives, blaming women, blaming the gays, blaming trans people, blaming Arabs and Sikhs and Middle Eastern and South Asian people of all varieties, and he does not know the difference between a Muslim and a Sikh and a Hindu, but he blames them all collectively and calls them all Arabs. Yeah. Yeah. And pretends to be a man of the people very badly, wearing a cowboy hat backwards. And, yeah, wearing a toy sheriff's badge on his chest when he's riding a horse badly with a backward cowboy hat on, trying to show the people of Alberta that he's a good cowboy like them. Pardon me. Yeah. Pierre Poilievre is a fascist. So what do fascists do economically? Well, they hand everything over to private capital. That's the capitalist class. And they strip mine social programs of every sort. Now, I know some of you are aware that Adolf Hitler did not scrap Germany's public health care system. At the time, it was the only public health care system in the world outside the Soviet Union, and the workers of Germany had literally fought for it in the streets. Yeah. Some 65 years earlier, Bismarck had given the workers public health care in exchange for their loyalty and their agreeing to not overthrow the German Empire and establish a People's Republic of Prussia. Yeah. A conservative gave the world public health care. And I feel compelled to acknowledge this fact because it is true. Public health care is a good thing. And when Hitler came to power, he was absolutely afraid to touch public health care because he knew, he understood that the workers wouldn't stand for it. Pierre Poilievre is not that smart. And he will scrap public health care on a national basis, and conservative premiers in the provinces will scrap it provincially. And if you're like me, and you work for a living, and you struggle, and you pay rent, and you don't own a summer house in one part of the country and a winter house in another part of the country and a ski chalet in another country entirely. Yeah, because, well, yeah. People like me depend on public health care, and people like you who may be inclined to support the conservatives who are becoming increasingly fascist. You depend on public health care. Your diabetes medication is paid for through public health care. Your artificial knee that allows you to go out and play golf still at country clubs on discount Tuesdays. That's provided by public health care. Man. Yeah. The walker that lets you get around in your apartment. Public health care. The various medications that keep you alive. Public health care. Yeah. And so if you're going to vote conservative, you're voting against public health care, and you're literally voting in favor of your own death. The same with disability pensions. Now, I receive a partial disability. Injuries sustained. Yeah. And I depend on that to make up the difference because of my inability to work a full 80-hour week. I wish I could. I used to be able to, and I can't anymore. And so my disability pension helps make up that difference. A lot of people who are thinking in terms of the conservatives saving us from the liberals are much more dependent on their disability pensions than I am. I could hypothetically survive without it. It would be hard, but I could do it. A lot of you can't. And you're ready to vote away your disability pensions the same way you're ready to vote away your public health care, in exchange for the promise that you will be led by a strong man. You know who leads? You know where a strong man leads? It's at the circus. Yeah. The circus is where you go to see the strong man. Yeah. And it's a trick. It's a gimmick. It's performative bullshit. It's the aesthetic, the look of strength rather than actual strength. Which brings us back to what fascism is. It's the look of strength rather than the actual strength itself. Pardon me. Fascism gives the illusion of strength. And tells you that you are strong. And tells you that women, gays, trans people, labor unions, feminism, education, and social progress are making you weak. And they tell you that there's a global conspiracy against you that is led by a minority who are visibly weak, but who are secretly all-powerful and overwhelmingly strong. Yeah. Yeah. Fascism. Are you sure you want fascism? Because that's where we're being dragged. And, yeah. Dumpy is treating history, as I said, like a playbook. Dumpy is using the history of fascism as a playbook. And Polyev is following along like a little lost puppy. Going beep, 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 beep. Yeah. And we need leaders who will resist fascism. And I don't know if Carney is the man to resist fascism in this country. I don't like him. He does represent the internationalist capitalism that is out there. Globalist capitalism, and it is capitalism, not communism. Globalism is a conservative right-wing idea. The global economy, in order to serve capitalism. Pardon me. Yeah. Yeah. Globalism is not socialism. It's capitalism. Yeah. And it lends itself so easily to fascism. Because, yeah, again, the interests of capital placed above the interests of the proletariat. Just something to think about. Anywho, I have to go to work. Yeah. All you good people, take care, be well, stay safe, love yous all. And, yeah, think deeply, read a few books. A good one that I can recommend is Naomi Klein's Shock Doctrine. Read it. It'll tell you something about aggressive capitalism. Read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, okay? Pick up a copy at your library and read it. And think about it. Think about what's coming down that pipe. Yeah. And don't imagine for a moment that you won't be adversely affected, because you're already being adversely affected.